and the spectacle perhaps of the government, the state, powerful ministers, powerful politicians tweeting against a 22-year-old brings to mind something that happened 3 years ago. And joining me this evening is Gurmeher Kaur. We all remember her as that LSR student who, after she came out with those posters for India-Pakistan peace, was brutally trolled, called anti-national. Ministers tweeted against you. Gurmeher Kaur, as you join us today, you're still very young, 23, and you see what's happening to Disha. What would you say today?
I stand in unconditional solidarity with Disha. I think what do I have to say to people is that it began with these BJP IT cells trolling, and we normalized it. We accepted it. We said that these people are anti-national. So what if they're young students, right? It started with just trolling and harassing and demonizing, and today the same government is using state power and jailing young students. We've in the last 3 years we've just gone from bad to worse, and it's because we've allowed it. As citizens, we've accepted it, and one has to step up and question what's happening in the country.
No, and in fact, because being called anti-national, as you said, on Twitter, and now we're seeing that these activists, Disha is facing sedition charges. We saw what happened last week when journalists like Mrinal Pandey, Rajdeep Sardesai, and MP also faced sedition charges. Basically mean that you're conspiring against your country. It's got a life imprisonment if you're found guilty. So it's actually gone from that brutal troll online space to actually being charged by police. So, the Delhi police is the premier police of the country. Tell us about what it was like for you when you had put on what you thought was a harmless gesture of peace. Did you expect the scale of what you would face? How did you and your family actually face it?
Absolutely not. I think at that point you could say whatever you wanted to say. Peace activism for me didn't start in 2017. I'd been involved in it for a very long time without backlash. But then after that, what we faced, we could not have predicted at all. And I think what really happened after what happened to me, and the way and the things that I had to go through, with Disha, it's way worse. And I deeply sympathize with her, with her family, with her friends, and the trauma that she's going through. With us, it felt like, with me, it felt like the end of the world. Mm-hmm. No. And even now, when I look at what's happening on the TV screen, it brings back such images of trauma, with reporters in your face asking you about how you've conspired against your country, how you're an anti-national. Somebody putting a sedition charge on you for being a climate activist, for standing in support with farmers, for standing in support with the people of this country, for a people's movement. Now the state has taken a 21-year-old girl, had moved her from her city, Bangalore, brought her to Delhi, and is telling her that she's conspiring against her own country. I genuinely wonder, how are people buying it?
No, and again, because I remember that time also when your case had happened, Gurmeher, I remember thinking I wouldn't have been so brave at 21 to be able to take on the onslaught of, say, state machinery. Again, then when you said ministers tweeting against you, today we have a minister tweeting that people like Disha should be eradicated, should be exterminated.
It's the same minister who said similar things.
It's almost like a call for violence against her. Whatever you may think about her, there's a process, and also this larger point about it being that she's an example, that you better not do this, otherwise this will happen to you, or you better not speak out, or X will happen to you. Why do you think that we are now in a space where politically, where socially, this has become almost the new normal?
The thing is, it's happened because as citizens, we've never spoken up. When I was trolled, there was a whole sense of, how dare she speak about peace with Pakistan? She must be trolled. Well, she deserved it. Of course, there are going to be right-wing people who are going to say terrible things to her. I was very fortunate in the sense that I had my family, I had very supportive community in terms of my college. Mm-hmm. But then later, what started happening when after the CAA protest, they brought in the UAPA and started jailing activists. We did not speak up when they jailed Omar Khalid. Mm-hmm. Because because the visuals of an arrest of Umar Khalid, the arrest of Natasha Narwal, the arrest of the arrest of the Pinjarathor activists,
right.
Students from JNU, we had gotten so accustomed and used to of just we internalized that so much that these people, these JNU walas, these Delhi University walas, these Muslims, these minorities, the Dalits, they always speak, so they are always protesting, so they deserve this, right? We've been so
absolutely
the country had been so. Whereas today, why the visual of a 21-year-old Disha Ravi being arrested is so it hits you in the face is because she looks like a regular college-going normal kid. She's upper caste Hindu. She belongs to
those boxes.
City. She's not been involved in your DU, GNUs. It hits you because, and it's happened today because we've allowed it to happen with Umar. We've allowed it to happen with Natasha. We've allowed it to happen with Nodeep. And if it's just the minorities, now it's every child, every young person who's dissenting.
Absolutely, and I think for parents, for young people out there, I don't think the message should be one of warning, but the message really to speak out in support of causes you believe in. I mean, to paint her as a seditionist is, I think, something which defies legal belief. So let's hopefully she gets representation in court and fights her case. But the trauma, not just to her but to her family that she's going through, is something that I think all of us need to recognize. Gurmeher, thanks so much for speaking to us. I mean, it's wonderful that I think you stayed so calm, even despite that, speaking out even more, writing a book. I think more power to you, and perhaps you can set the example that many other young people can look at. Thanks very much for joining us tonight.